can here.
You're live. You're live.
All right. Okay. I believe we're recording, so we're gonna get started here. Sorry for the interruption for you at home, wishing to watch, or if you're just watching the recording, we started late. It's 6:45. Can I get a motion to reconvene from our in-camera session? Councillor Hamilton, can I get all in favor on that? And carried. Just for those at home, we have Councillor Wilkie at home. We have Councillor Holladay at home. If you guys could just turn on your mics and say hello, Wilkie, then Lana. Or, see? Cindy. Wilkie.
You don't screw mine up.
Right.
I know there's two W last names.
Yeah.
Right now here in Illinois.
Thank you, Mini Rap. You're looking good. Cindy?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, all right. I thought I'd get through a meeting without calling Cindy Lana or Lana Cindy. I screwed it up on the first blanch. That's a record. Usually I make it 2 or 3 in before I screw up, but that's all good. Councillor Rab will be dialing in about 30 minutes, and Councillor Gordon is off tonight, so he won't be dialing in. So we had a motion coming out of in camera. That carried. Just for everyone's knowledge, we started the meeting at 5:05 with 2 items for in camera. One was disclosure harmful to personal privacy, and the other was intergovernmental relations. And we recessed for a 10-minute break at 6:20, and we just got back. We were waiting for the camera to get up and running, and now we're ready to go. So, moving on to number 4, motions rising from closed session. We have none. Number 5, adoption of previous minutes. So I have the June 18 Governance and Priorities Advisory Committee minutes. Can I get a motion and then any discussion on that? Councillor Hamilton wins again. Any comments regarding the minutes for the Governance Priorities GPAC meeting? Councillor Holladay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, this one, I think the next one as well, when we record our closed sessions, we're supposed to state who was in the closed sessions. I mean, it's the city council, but if any staff members are, we normally do it. I think this meeting, last meeting, maybe, our last council meeting as well as the GPAC, it's forgotten, so we just have that fixed up, that'd be great.
Okay, Manager of Legislative Services is nodding her head. She will take care of that. So there you go. Okay, we'll have that added. If nothing else, all in favor of adoption of the minutes? And that is carried, thank you. 5.2, July 20th, 2020, summer business meeting. Can I get a motion for the adoption of that? Councillor Waring, any comments, concerns? Same thing, Cindy? Yep, okay. Ms. Thompson will take care of that, good enough. Okay, seeing nothing, all in favor? And that is carried unanimous as well, thank you. Question period. At the start of every regular business meeting, we have 15 minutes dedicated to question period for the public to come and ask questions of council or administration, ask for clarity, or notify us of anything that they feel is a concern. Mr. Sharp, have we received any questions by email, text, or smoke signal? Anything? Nothing?
Not today.
All right, not today, not this week. Everyone's enjoying the hot weather. Okay, so that being the case, we will move on. Open the page. To statutory hearings. And lo and behold, we actually have one this time. This will be the 4th one of the year. And it is the advertising bylaw 20-1101. We're gonna open up a public hearing. So I'm gonna read from our trusty little cheat sheet here. And once I'm done, we will move through the steps. So here we go. I hereby declare the public hearing for bylaw 20-1101 opened at 6:51 p.m. August 17th, 2020. This public hearing is held pursuant to section 606.1-3 of the Municipal Government Act. Council must conduct a public hearing before passing the proposed advertising bylaw 20-1101 to hear representations from the public. I am Mayor Barry Crane, and I'm the chairperson for tonight's hearing. Will council please introduce themselves, starting with Wilkie, then Holladay, and then we'll go to in-house.
My name is Jamie Wilkie, I'm a councillor with the judge.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkie.
Councillor Cindy Holladay.
Thank you, Ms. Holladay.
John Waring.
Councillor Waring, and to my right,
Councillor Lana Hamilton.
excellent, Councillor Deputy Mayor Lana. Yes, I know. Sometimes I forget to add the title, so I figured I'd get it right. Okay. Will administration please introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Sharp?
Todd Sharp, Chief Administrative Officer. Excuse me.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Thompson is our Legislative Services Manager. Corinne Middleton in the back is our Finance Manager. And Monique LeBlanc over here is our Everything Manager. She's amazing. Okay, here we go. The hearing preamble. All discussions of council members, administration, and speakers shall be directed to myself as the chairperson. During the public hearing, we ask that you respect the views of everyone here and allow each person their time to speak without interruption. Each person wishing to speak will be given up to 5 minutes to make a presentation to council. I ask that you indicate if you are speaking on your own behalf or on behalf of another person or group of persons or an organization. When you are finished speaking, please remain at the front, as council may wish to ask questions of you. All conduct at the hearing will be carried out in an orderly fashion in accordance with normal parliamentary procedures. I would at this time ask Ms. Heather Thompson, our Legislative Services Manager, to confirm whether this public hearing has been advertised and notice given in accordance with the requirements of the Municipal Government Act.
Yes, it has. It was advertised in the Western Wheel for 2 consecutive weeks, as well as being on our website.
All right, Ms. Thompson confirms that it has had 2 viewings through the Western Wheel as well as advertised on our website. Staff report. Ms. Thompson, can you please explain to those of us in attendance the purpose of the proposed advertising bylaw? And could we get you a microphone, maybe, if possible? Maybe you could come over here, or if you want to slide to the end here, Mr. Jesselyn, that'd be perfect.
I don't want to unhook any of the video conference.
You want to try?
What would you like to do?
I'd like to stay put because I don't want to unhook my camera.
Okay, she's just going to speak nice and loud, and hopefully all you can hear.
The purpose of the advertising bylaw is to assist in reducing costs, mostly for advertising in local newspaper regarding public hearings, which have to be advertised in two times consecutively in the local printed newspaper. In October 26, 2017, the MGA changed its rules to allow municipalities to use alternate methods for advertising, statutory type hearings, etc. So this advertising bylaw has been reviewed by the GPAC, and they had requested that it move forward to regular council meeting following the public hearing. It received first reading on July the 20th, 2020, and of course was advertised appropriately. The requirements that need to be met in the advertising bylaw. So the council must be satisfied that the methods provided will bring the matter to the attention of substantially all residents in the relevant area, which it will do because we will continue advertising at least once in the local printed newspaper, and then we'll advertise in accordance to, on our website. So the advertisement in the Western Wheel will point to the direction of the website for further details. The public hearing must be held, and that's why we're here today. The notice of the bylaw must be advertised by newspaper, residential mail, and website, and we've done that in the new bylaw. We've made accommodations for that in the new bylaw. And bylaws passed under this section must be made available for public inspection. All of our bylaws are posted on our Civic Web portal for public inspection. And it was, the bylaw was posted on our website following first reading along with the public notice. We are presenting this, addressing the alternate methods that we're proposing. And this will provide flexibility of notification methods, allowing to utilize current and future technologies, which we're moving forward to, as we've seen pretty clearly as we've been going through this COVID process, and further allows Turner Valley to adapt our methods to meet local needs and reduce advertising costs for statutory hearings, etc. We will be continuing to use the local newspapers to advertise things such as special events, as we normally do. We will utilize to advertise non-statutory type things, job postings, that kind of thing. Will mean a 50% reduction in statutory hearing notifications in advertising, which doesn't amount to a lot, but it does still amount to something, and it gets us moving with the newer technologies.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thompson, has the town received any written submissions? And if so, I would ask that you read them aloud, or bring them up to me and I'll read them aloud with the microphone here.
I have not.
That we can enter into the record.
I have not.
We have not received any. All right. Speakers preamble. Here we go. At this point of the hearing, I will call upon anyone wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw. Please note that each party wishing to speak will have only one opportunity to do so. Council members may ask presenters questions for the purpose of clarifying the speaker's comments. Council will not debate this matter during the hearing. The decision regarding whether to grant the bylaw further readings will be dealt with later in the agenda or at a subsequent meeting if deemed necessary. So with that, we have Mr. Sean Jessup in I was going to say courthouse here.
The hot seat.
Right, in our chambers. So Mr. Wilkie and Cindy, you don't have him here, but you're going to hear him shortly. So Todd, I'm going to have you turn off your microphone and you're going to hit your button over here, and it's solid. So any questions on how this is going to work? So you got 5 minutes basically to ask away, make a presentation, and so on. So floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank
Welcome.
you.
Thanks for coming, Matt.
As Mayor Crane said, my name is Sean Jessup. I am the publisher of the Western Wheel, and I'm here today to share a perspective on the proposed advertising bylaw 20-1101. The rationale, according to the proposed bylaw, of only publishing one time in the Western Wheel just the title and a general statement of purpose of a statutory notification, and referring interested parties to the town website for more comprehensive details does not, I would argue, meet the intent of Article 606.1, Item 2 of the MGA that mandates that the methods provided will bring the matter to the attention of substantially all residents in a relevant area. I believe that publishing the complete and comprehensive notification details in a newspaper, even once, is vital to public engagement and the democratic process. The Western Wheel serves as a third-party verifier and offers a permanent, printed, and archived record readily available for the public. The town of Turner Valley's continued advertising support, along with other municipalities we serve, helps us to pay for the considerable cost of providing quality journalism in all the communities we serve. In return, and specifically for the town of Turner Valley, our readers, your constituents, rely on us to keep them informed on the Turner Valley information. And I believe these readers have been well served with the 283 published features in the past 12 months alone that were either specifically about Turner Valley or reference the community. Even as this pandemic has been another challenge to the Western Wales revenue, as it has for all media in Canada, we are seeing record readership in print and online as our communities try to understand, cope, recover, and separate fact from fiction. In the past year, the Western Wheel has invested heavily in providing our readers with a new comprehensive website with content written by professional journalists, news content on our site updated on a daily basis. It has developed a readership that overlaps with our printed product, but also a unique readership among the 50,000 plus visitors we get each month. We are currently developing a program on the site that will soon be available to all our municipal advertisers and gives them the ability to publish notices from the paper on our site. While I do appreciate the cost savings intent of the proposed bylaw with regard to statutory resident notification advertising, I have learned that the town of Turner Valley still plans to continue its community-based advertising. It's important to recap what the traditional advertising is for the community. In 2019, the town of Turner Valley spent approximately $8,100 in print advertising in the Western Wheel and its features. That's about 0.14% of your 2019 revenues. Of that, about $2,250 was spent on advertising statutory resident notifications. According to the request for a decision from the July 20, 2020 council meeting related to your advertising bylaw, the financial goal was a 50% reduction in related newspaper advertising costs. Based on that goal, the savings for the municipality would be approximately $1,125, or 0.02% of the 2019 municipal revenue. As was just discussed, your community advertising will remain, and it is approximately, or was last year, about $5,850. And I'm glad to see that that support is staying there. Based on the advertising spend so far in 2020, the new bylaw would have saved you, if it had been in place, the new bylaw would have saved you about $361. Long and short, it's not a lot of money. Traditional media in Canada is struggling. Community newspapers, often the only recorder of a community's day-to-day history, are trying to survive. I strongly value the relationship the Western Wheel has forged with the town of Turner Valley. I value the advertising support the town has given the Wheel and the detailed information we have provided the community. I would not want either to diminish because the newspaper became a secondary source of relevant, detailed town information. If residents are deprived of news and information, we all stand to suffer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's well said. Council, any questions? Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Holladay, any comment? Councillor Wilkie, you good? All right, thank you. That was very well read, very well said.
Good.
It gives me some food for thought.
Good.
So I thank you for coming out here, because I know you come from Okotoks, so it's such a long drive.
It's not that far.
No, but that was very well said.
Thank you.
So thank you. We'll take that into consideration as we move through the night and into the next readings.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Now you can stay for the exciting meeting that's gonna continue.
I'll read it. I'll read about it.
You're reading about the wheel.
Touche.
Next one. Okay, thank you, Mr. Desmond. Take care.
Read Tammy's version of it anyway.
Yeah. No, that was well read. I like that. Call for others to speak in support. At this time, I would ask if anyone would like to speak in support of the proposed bylaw. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. And as we have no one in chambers at this time, I would say that is it. And call for others to speak in opposition. At this time, I would ask if anyone would like to speak in opposition to the proposed bylaw, which we just had Mr. Jessen do. And again, no one else is in the chambers, so we'll move on from there. Other speakers, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the proposed bylaw who have not yet had an opportunity to do so? Again, no one is in chambers. We'll move on from there. I would like to thank all those who spoke at the bylaw. Council will take your comments into consideration when deciding on this matter. With that said, I declare the public hearing for bylaw 20-1101 be closed at 7:05 p.m. Thank you. Okay. Delegations. We have none. Just get my agenda here, guys. Delegations, we have none. Moving on. 9.1 Chief Administrative Officer's Report. Mr. Sharp, light your mic and have the floor.
Mayor Crane, I don't have any items to update council on this evening.
Would you like to tell us about your holiday and how fun it was? It's not really a report.
Another time.
No, another time, okay, sounds good. I'm glad that you got to unwind. It was well deserved, for sure. So, we're glad to have you back in and, look forward to moving ahead here. Administrative responses, we have no items. And administrative inquiries, we have two. Councillor Holladay, 11.1 is yours. Would you like to activate your mic and present your inquiry, please?
Yeah, I just was asking administration to provide an update on the town fiber optics installation program that was going on last year. And because it was a big deal, I wanted, and the TELUS had advised us that they were going to be doing it throughout the entire town. I want to make sure that did in fact happen, that they did cover the entire town and how things are going, so.
That's a great question to bring forward at this time, especially in lieu of the fact with COVID and homeschooling, and all the data that's being used for schooling purposes moving into September, definitely worthy of comment. Mr. Sharp, did we get any response to tell us? Yeah, go ahead.
And appreciate Councillor Holladay tipping us off that she'd be asking the question tonight. We did our best to try to get a response from TELUS before the meeting. We did reach them. They're working on an answer, but we weren't able to get a complete answer from them in time for this council meeting, so we'll certainly bring that back around at the next council meeting.
Okay, we'll look forward to September. What is our next meeting in September?
The
8th, September 8th, we'll hopefully have an answer from them, Councillor Holladay, so that one will be in the books. And 11.2, we have Councillor Hamilton, Deputy Mayor Hamilton. You have your question right there. You have the floor.
Thank you. I was just looking to see if there was an update on the grant funding that we had submitted the letter to Minister Madu for Gooding Lane and Sunset Boulevard.
Through Mayor Crane to Deputy Mayor Hamilton. So I can give you a high level update. We don't have complete granularity on where we're going with the projects, but I certainly can give you an update. So in fact, just the day before I left on vacation, we received notification from the Minister's office that decisions had been made around the municipal stimulus funding. In short, the formula for allocation followed the gas tax fund, so it was a per capita funding amount. Turner Valley was allocated $304,000 through that program with a number of criteria. In no particular order, we must put our hat in the ring and apply for that money for the first tranche, which is the deadline of October the 1st. The money that we receive from the province must be spent before the end of fiscal year 2021. Doesn't mean the projects have to be completed, but their form of funding must be spent by the end of fiscal year 2021. With that, the couple of criteria in order to get the money. The first is we must submit a report with our application, identifying what the municipality has done to reduce red tape, in an effort to be supportive of business, economic development, and just different things going on in the community. That's no problem, we're working on that as we speak. And that any sort of projects that we apply this funding to cannot result in a corresponding tax increase to ratepayers. So the two projects that we had submitted for were the Sunset Sewer Line replacement and Gooding Lane. Gooding Lane to us does not imply any sort of tax increase, but we have not yet decided on the funding mechanisms for Sunset. One option would be some form of levy or debenture, which could result in a tax increase. And so we need to take a look at each of those two projects and decide definitively which qualify for the criteria or for the funding. At first blush, Gooding Lane does, but we intend to bring in a full staff report back to council on September 8th with all of the details. Did you have any specific questions about the program that you still need answered?
No, I was just curious on that $300,000 that we had received notification that we had received, if it was that same grant, that had been, you know, divvied up on a per capita basis, but yeah, you answered that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Wilkie, Holladay, any comment? You're good? Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, good question, Councillor Hamilton, and we look forward to September 8th to get some more detailed information on that. I believe I saw the letter we received in the mailbox, so that'll be part of that package at that time, I assume. Thank you. Okay, moving on then. Good. Bylaws and policies, 12.1. We have the advertising bylaw 20-1101 for second reading, first reading. Second reading. There we go.
It says third and final.
It has options.
Second,
Options 1 and 2.
you need second reading and third and final reading
And where's that
to pass the
coming from?
bylaw this evening, Mayor Crane. I would like to clarify one thing, regarding, what Mr. Jessam, said about the, notice, not being a full notice. It will be a full notice. That's the mandate of the MGA, that it be a full notice, and that's what the notice requires, is a statement regarding what the bylaw is about. So we will continue doing the normal notice in the newspaper as we do now, only it just won't run for 2 weeks. And as we do now, we still do direct residents to the website for further information. And so that will continue happening. I do recognize that it's a minor, we don't do a lot of public hearing notifications, but we will be doing more public notification, notices as we go forward with land use, amendments, etc. So, I present, this bylaw for second reading.
Okay, thank you. Just want to acknowledge that we have Councillor Rabb just dialed in. So if you want to say hello there, Mr. Rabb.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? Sorry
Good.
I'm late.
Excellent. Just to let you know where we are in the agenda, we're at 12.1 bylaws and policies. We're presently looking at advertising bylaw 20-1101. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So, yeah, go ahead, Heather.
Because Councillor Rob.
Wasn't here during the public hearing and won't get to vote.
He doesn't get to vote.
Yeah. So, as usual, you don't get to vote, Councillor Rob. But this time there's an actual reason. It's because you weren't here for the public hearing that we just had 10 minutes ago. So don't feel like we're just doing that just because it's you. Wilkie, you're up.
I was just gonna give, motion, for council agree to the second reading to bylaw 20-1101. for Ms. Thompson. Did I hear you correct that, we are going to continue to publish our notices in the same format that they are currently published in? Is that correct? Because when I read 2.1/2.1A, it says by publishing the title and statement of general purpose. So if you could just clarify, that for people.
Ms. Thompson, go ahead.
Yes, you're correct. That's what we have to do according to the MGA. We have to publish the reason for the bylaw in the notice. So, Mr. Jessen was incorrect in saying that it's just a short thing and we point in the direction to the website. We have to publish the full notice of hearing in the paper at least once. And then, of course, we would still, and we do it now, we also put it on our website, but it will only be in the paper once, and then it will be directed to the website, and it'll be the full notice on the website as well.
So if I were to look at the MGA requirements for advertising 606.6, a notice must contain A, B, C, and D, A being a statement of general purpose of proposed bylaw, resolution, meeting, public hearing, and or other, the address where the copy of the proposed bylaw, resolution, or other, the document relating to, and the meeting or public hearing that may be inspected. In case of the bylaw resolution, the outline of the procedure to be followed by anyone wishing to file a petition in respect of it. And in the case of a meeting or a public hearing, the date, time, and place where it's to be held. So that would be the information that's gonna be contained in that first newspaper article in full, essentially.
And we will point to our website for.
And yes, and it'll point to our website. Continue, Mr. Welke.
Yeah, I just, I was gonna say, look, I view this as kind of a sign of the times, and I get the position that Mr. Jessen is taking here. My view would be different on this, and that to be perfectly frank, I view having to do this twice is kind of a antiquated sort of procedure, and in my mind, it's money that we were spending on things that I don't think may have been the most necessary, and that the MDA, from my understanding of it, says isn't necessary anymore. So potentially that means that we have, the ability to do more community-based advertising and things like that, and that can all be handled in budget, obviously, but I don't think, I struggle to see that we do this. That's my perspective.
Okay, Councillor Waring, do you want to comment?
Nope.
Okay, Councillor Holladay, were you wanting to comment?
Yeah, I appreciate the comments made, I can see it. I see it both ways. You know, as you said, there's not that much of an increase in cost doing it twice. I'm fine with the current format, how we're doing it. So I'm kind of on the fence on, you know, 1 week versus 2 after hearing, because people do go on vacation, so.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Deputy Mayor Hamilton, comment?
I appreciate the clarification by Ms. Thompson on the entire notice being printed, not just a title or a heading. I think that's an important clarification. Definitely to keep our residents informed and the public informed, and it seems like a small amount of money when we're looking at it. We spent $2,200 on statutory hearings in 2018. So this bylaw amendment would have a cost savings to the town of Turner Valley of $1,125 and would have a decrease in revenue to the wheel of $1,125. Anywhere that we can find cost savings, I think it's important to capitalize on them. I also think that it's a sign of the times that we are advertising more through electronic means, but at the same time, we are making sure we cover our bases by continuing to So I think it's important that we continue to work with that relationship and give them our business whenever we can. But at the same time, when there is cost savings that can be realized because of MGA changes or a new way of doing things, I think we need to capitalize on those cost savings because they all add up at the end of the day.
Excellent, thank you. I'm gonna agree, I think it is a sign of the times, and I really appreciate Mr. Jessum's comments and foresight into how he presented. Especially bringing those numbers. It gave some context, and it really does also give context to the economic environment when you're concerned to the levels of $2,000 coming from your operations. From both perspectives,
Yes.
from his as a revenue, and for us as a savings for the taxpayer. Councillor Holladay made a very good point, albeit small, but very clear. She reads the paper, but sometimes she's on vacation. Well, on my vacation, I logged on to the Western Wheel online every day. So the online versions and websites, that is the way of the future for a lot of things. So it gave me access, even though I was away, to the local paper. So I was up to date with everything when I got back. So this is another form of advertising. It meets the requirements of the MGA. It creates a small savings, but it also impacts our local economy on the other side. And it's important to recognize that because Mr. Jessup made the effort to come down here just to speak to that point. So it's important to acknowledge. That being said, I'm supportive of moving ahead with second reading. And I fully support the work that's gone into this and the understandings of where and why we're doing it. So everything has a cost, and this likewise has one on both sides of the fence. So that's my comment. If no one else is commenting, we're going to call the question on the motion made by Councillor Wilkie, who can comment and close us off. Councillor Rapp, we want you to just keep it zipped, right? Just a little longer. Okay, Councillor Wilkie, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll close it out please. I think, I'm tremendously appreciative of the coverage that we get from the wheel. I know that there are a lot of communities where that isn't the case. That said,
Thanks.
I also recognize that we are not alone in doing this. I did a quick search and I'm seeing a ton of small communities taking similar measures to manage advertising costs. And like I said, I'm not opposed to advertising in general, and any time that we are advertising, I would hope that the Western View is the easiest place for us to advertise in. But I would rather be doing it on things that help us tell our story better, maybe, as opposed to statutory policies. So that's my view. Thanks everyone, and I support the second reading.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkie. I agree. There might be a plethora of events that we might be advertising and use that same amount of money. We don't know, but for this particular bylaw, I think it's the right way to go. So with that being said, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of second reading? And that is unanimous. Councillor Wilkie and Holladay are in positive, and Councillor Hamilton and Ward. Okay, thank you. Moving on here, 1 second.
Do the third reading.
Well, this is what I'm gonna ask now. The council, if council wishes, someone would have to make the motion for a third
I'll do that.
and final. Councillor Waring, if you'd like to read that off, please.
Council agree to give third and final reading to bylaw 20-1101.
Okay, so this is for third and final reading. If you had trouble hearing that, his microphone was off. Any comments, questions? I think we had our comments. Okay, excellent. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously as well. All right, thank you. next item is 12.2, the Traffic and Parking Control Bylaw 20-1106. So we have Officer Trevor in attendance and lead Ms. LeBlanc, who is sitting at the center console. You can't see her, but you're going to hear her shortly for those at home. Are we ready, Mr. Sharp? Straight to Ms. LeBlanc.
Yep, just a quick introduction for council. We attempted to do our best to answer the questions that arise from the first reading and questions and discussion of council last month. And so we believe we've answered those in the RFD. I recognize there might be a couple of more. We've got Monique and Officer Bowman here to answer those. So if there are any further questions, we'll leave it to those two individuals. Otherwise, we're looking for a second reading too.
All right, thank you. Ms. LeBlanc, floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just to remind everybody that this is to give second, possibly third and final reading to Bylaw 20-1106, Traffic and Parking Control. At the last meeting, Councillor Wilkie had asked a number of questions, as well as Councillor Holladay, I believe, and I will be asking Officer Bowman to respond to these. But as you'll see in the report, there were 4 areas of interest that required further clarification. One included the definition of truck to do with the gross weight limits. The second one was to clarify the definition of truck width limits. As well, there was discussion in and around the RV parking restrictions between November to May. And I think I may have missed one, but regardless, what has happened is there's been additional consultation with legal as well as research done with a number of other communities, including the City of Edmonton, Traffic Bylaw, City of Calgary, Traffic Bylaw was looked at, Towns of Cochrane, Airdrie, Okotoks, and Strathmore to get some semblance of it, as well as looking also at the Alberta and the federal legislation. So with that, I will pass it on to Senior Officer Bowman to be able to provide details on it.
Excellent, thank you. Good evening, Officer Bowman.
Good evening,
Hope
Your
all
Honor.
is well.
It is, sir.
Excellent, the floor is yours.
Thank you. In front of you have the revised traffic bylaw regarding parking and traffic within the city or the town of Turner Valley. We again, following our last meeting, we went through it and corrected some of the oversights that were made, which included the playground zone times. That was corrected also. In addition, we looked at the definition of truck, RV parking, and some of the concerns that council had at the beginning. So at this point, I would invite, through the chair, invite members of council to, once they've had a chance to review this, if they have any questions regarding this or going forward, to if they could please advise them now.
All right. Councillor Wilkie, I believe you had first dibs, so you may go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks Officer Bowman, and thank you administration for getting back to us on this. I know I'm very focused on trucks, and it's only because I used to drive a big truck, so I guess I kind of consider something. But this is great. I appreciate all the responses that you have here. My first question, I guess this was probably directed more towards the administration in general, is what the design specifications of our roads are. If that is what's guiding us on weight limitations on our roads, you can provide any background on that. That's the first question. And the second question, I think, is from an enforcement perspective, is when I read that definition of truck, so 2-30D, it says a gross vehicle weight is in excess of 4,500 kilograms. So my question on that front is whether the intent here is that the vehicle actually weighs 4,500 kilograms or more at the time that it is parked on the street, or is the intention that the registered gross vehicle weight of the vehicle is higher than 4,500 kilograms, that the time that it's parked on the street, because those are two very different numbers. And when I had a truck that was registered at 11,300 kilograms, because that's just under the limit for federal trucking regulations, and I didn't want to keep logbooks. I have to take a potty break every 9 hours. So there's a lot of trucks that are registered at that point, but my truck actually weighed, 45-ish 100 kilograms unloaded, right? So there's a big difference between those two numbers, and I guess I'd just like clarification.
So could you just clarify the first question again? I think it was regarding what the road,
Yeah, if the 4,500 kilograms is sort of based on a design specification for our residential streets, and the idea being that beyond that, they're designed for 4,500 kilograms, so anything above that would cause damage, if you can clarify what the basis of it.
okay, all right, perfect, okay, thank you. Todd? There you
Trevor.
go.
That's okay. Through the CEO, to the chair, to Councilman Wilkie. In conducting some research into this, I did speak to our roads manager, Craig Beaton. In addition, I also looked into a number of different traffic bylaws throughout the province. As Ms. LeBlanc alluded to, Calgary, Edmonton, Cochrane, Airdrie, Okotoks, Strathmore, and Chestermere. 4,500 kilograms appears to be roughly the going rate of weights on residential roads. The city of Calgary advises they go as high as 5,450. In speaking with Mr. Beaton, the roads designed, this is best practices, the roads are designed for that, approximately that weight. Anything excessive that will cause damage to the road eventually, resulting in expensive repairs and costs to the taxpayers. As far as we go regarding vehicles and GVWs, the gross vehicle weight is 4,500 kilograms, meaning that is the most that truck can weigh on a residential road. Not the tar weight, but the GVW. That's, the certain pickup trucks, as an F-350, Ford F-350, it's weighing 3,400 kilograms. That's well under what our permitted weight is. However, again, we can bump it up if chosen to be. But again, 3,400 kilograms is well under the 4,500 that we're aiming for to prevent damage on our roadways.
But just a follow-up on that, if I may, and thank you. I just want to further clarify that second. That's an F-350's weight unloaded would be somewhere around 3,900 kilograms. But that truck loaded GVW would be up to a maximum of 10,000-ish kilograms, right? That's a heavy-duty truck that can tow significant weight and carry significant weight loads. So that truck, technically, if I look at some of the trucks that are parked on our residential streets right now, I can tell you that they've got 11,300 kilograms stamped on the side of them. There's GVW, that's maximum allowable weight. But those trucks, as parked on the road, likely weigh somewhere around 4,000, or likely under this limit that we're talking. So the question is whether it's that registered weight or the actual weight that we're interested in.
Okay.
At this point, maybe we'd be interested in that actual weight of not exceeding 4,500 kilograms on that road.
Okay, that helps me a lot, and I think that that's I think far more reasonable. I'd be concerned about somebody who's just got it stamped because they need to be able to tow that trailer some days. They're not towing it from town. But I'd be more concerned if they weren't allowed to park at all, even though they weigh 3,900 kilograms on the street. Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now.
Okay. Any other council have any comments regarding our amendments and clarified questions? Councillor Holladay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one thing that I wanted clarified or fixed up in the wording, and it wasn't, it's just a minor thing. It says alleyways at all, which that little note also applies to 14.4A, but it's confusing because it's written right after B. You know, so commercial vehicles can park for 45 minutes, they're not allowed to block the alleyway. Non-commercial are allowed to park for 5 minutes, and they're not allowed to block the alleyway, basically. But it's only written after B, so it's just confusing, how it's worded. So I was just looking for, you know, under B, just a period after not exceeding 5 minutes, and then make a note underneath saying that, you know, both A and B, nobody's allowed to block the alleyway. I just don't want somebody to come in and read 14.4A and say they can park for 45 minutes as a business. And don't look at B, where it talks about non-commercial, you know, 5 minutes and skip over the fact that they can't block the alleyway. Needs to be clear, we don't want alleyways blocked.
When we looked at this section, we wanted to make sure that we had a definite, or there was a definite division between commercial vehicles and private vehicles here. When we looked at, again, A, the loading and unloading of goods from a commercial vehicle for not exceeding 45 minutes. This also, if you look at loading and unloading of goods and passengers from vehicles other than commercial vehicle for a period of not exceeding 5 minutes unless the vehicle or commercial or non-commercial is parked in a manner that prevents or for other vehicles from passing in the alleyway, in which case the owner of the vehicle so parked shall be guilty of an offense. Basically, this differentiates between your commercial vehicles and your passenger vehicles. Commercial vehicles, again, if you're loading large amounts of goods, it could take quite a while. We do not want passenger vehicles taking advantage of that just because they're not identified. So in differentiating between them both, they are fairly similar. I can understand why it may be a bit confusing. It could be cleaned up a little bit, but again, this was taken out of another bylaw in which it did go through legal review, and they did specify that it should be in there.
Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I don't think, I'm totally fine with the 45 and the 5 and the difference between the two types of vehicles. I'm just saying that neither one can block the alleyway. You know, under A, for 45 minutes, you're still not allowed to block the alleyway. And it's not clear because it's included in the B, where it's talking about the 5-minute people. So I just wanted it separated, that last little caveat about not ever blocking the alleyway while you're doing this work. I wanted it separated from B because it applies to both A and B. That's all I was looking for. Like, I'm good with 45 and the 5 and the differences. I just wanted it to be clear, very clear, that someone can't block the alleyway for 45 minutes.
I can advise that can be added as a subsection C to this section. That's a relatively easy change to make.
Could we call that, as amended then?
Yes.
If we were to do that,
Yes.
that'd be great. Councillor Wilkie, your go again? You're muted there, bud.
There we go.
There you go.
The thing I have this figured out, I only live on this 9 hours a day, so, this second area I had concerns around was width, and I appreciate the additional context that you provided. I feel a lot better at 2.5 meters. The one question that I did have, for you, Officer Bowman, is there some way that we could, as opposed to being restrictive with this bylaw, create it in such a way that it's something along the lines of no vehicle shall park in such a way that it does not leave 3 meters of clear space, or whatever the amount is that we need to have of clear space between the vehicles in order to allow passing, right? Because there's a lot of situations. I mean, I drive down Windsor every day, and I can get through there. That's relatively narrow. You know, I can get through there no problem. I can understand if there was 2 dualies, it might be a little bit tight, but I feel better about that approach than just, you know, flatly calling it 2 meters. Just curious what your thoughts are on that approach, as opposed to
from an enforcement point of view, by providing 3 meters of clear passage, you're gonna find us out there with yardsticks measuring between vehicles just to issue a parking ticket. Each street in the city or in the town is, the width varies a little bit. The other side of it is if you have a cul-de-sac or a ball, whereabouts do you start measuring from? And again, if you have an oversized vehicle parked in a cul-de-sac, it's going to impede traffic. However, you still have way more than 3 meters allowed in there, such as if we have a garbage truck and someone has an RV parked in there, the garbage truck is gonna find itself doing a 15-point turn. Yes, it's impeding traffic, but it still has the 3 meter gap. So from an enforcement point of view, I think it'd be very difficult for us. Again, we'd be out measuring the width of streets, not the widths of vehicles. Again, and each street is a bit different.
Okay, that's what I thought your answer was gonna be, Mr. Bowman. I appreciate that. I thought it might be unfortunate, but appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Rabb, did you have comment? You're good, all right. Councillor Waring, good. Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
Do you need a motion?
Just wanted to point out the one little answer to your question regarding trailer parking in the off-season of October to, I think it was,
November to May.
yes, thank you, was basically snow clearing.
Yeah. It
As
makes
it's in
perfect
here.
sense, yeah.
I just thought we should vocalize that for the record. I've been going through definitions, I wanted to fine tune the definition of truck. But as I read it, it all jives quite nicely. So again, just for a little clarification, so any vehicle, as long as it's attached to a trailer, because trailer debate has been a big thing as of late. Any time a trailer is attached to a vehicle, it's okay. If it's not connected and it is sitting by itself, it's totally target number 1, correct?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as saying target number 1, but it is a priority. The reason being is in a majority of cases, if a vehicle's attached to the trailer is insured. Once it's not attached, most holiday trailers are no longer insured. They're on a public roadway, and if they are in a collision or anything like that, if we allow it, we hold some liability as a municipality.
Excellent answer. Now that makes a lot of sense, actually. So there you go, council. That's another reason why it's important that we don't have trailers sitting by themselves, and if we do, we need to make sure that they're notified. Now you had a comment, Councillor Hamilton.
It's just a clarification on your comment. They're not allowed, they're only allowed for 48 hours if attached to a vehicle in front of the owner's premises. So like on Edward Avenue where the 15 trailers are parked, I don't think that's allowed. But
Just saying.
Yeah.
Let's get clarification, shall we?
Yes. As far as holiday trailers, oops.
Yeah, no, you're good.
As far as holiday trailers go, there is a time limit that can be on the roadway. I did notice them last week. Again, we wanna give the benefit of the doubt to our residents, saying, listen, you're gonna pack it up and get out of here. If it's gonna be a parking lot, that falls under storage on the highway, which is included in this bylaw. The other thing to remember is with trailers, holiday trailers and utility trailers are different. We have a number of folks that take their utility trailers home with them. Again, we do have a length limit in town where, again, some of our parking areas are quite congested. And if you have somebody or 2 or 3 residents who are parking with utility trailers on your residence area, we parking a block or a block and a half away. So, again, utility trailers, used for work, RV trailers, a little different. Same thing, they still have to be attached. And when we say attached, we've clarified, just attaching the chains to your car doesn't count. It has to be connected through the primary means of attachment to the vehicle, which means the hitch.
Excellent, thank you. Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
I was just gonna give you a motion.
Yes, please, thank you.
That council gives second reading to traffic and parking control bylaw 20-1106 as amended, by Councillor Holladay.
First.
This is first reading?
We haven't had first reading yet.
Yes, we,
Says second reading here.
Yeah, I'm sure we did.
Okay,
We
first
had-
reading.
With less time, wasn't it?
Last meeting.
The option is for second
No.
reading.
We were, this hasn't received first reading.
Yes, it did.
Check the minutes that we just adopted.
Oh, sorry.
I'm pretty sure we did, yeah. Because we
gave-
asked
we
for
gave
these
it
here
first
questions to come
reading
back,
and-
and
yeah.
we would change it if we wanted to.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's second reading.
Yeah, it's second. Yeah,
As
It's a
amended?
GPAC,
Yeah.
GPAC first reading.
that's right.
And the amendments are?
The amendments were, as per Councillor Holladay, 14.A, B, and
I didn't
there
see.
be clarification to the note applying to
14.4.
both, that you cannot block alleyways.
Well said. We'll just give Heather a second to write that down, and then we'll vote on the motion. So it'll be as amended as per Councillor Holiday's requests.
Yep, I got it.
One other neat thing while
Oh,
Heather's doing that I just wanted to bring up, did you know that if your kid is not wearing a helmet on a bike, that you can get a fine? It's pretty steep.
Nice.
Conversation with
I'm
kids
so
today.
glad I grounded my son, so. He won't be riding anywhere. That's a story for another day. Okay. Everyone's good? All in favor? I see a wave in there, Mr. Wilkie. We're gonna take that as a yes, but no, if you wanna comment now, go ahead.
Well, I did hope to propose the amendment on 2.5 meters, not on the lake, but on 2.5 meters. So, I can do that on third reading.
No, do it now.
That's fine if we've already voted.
No, we can do it now. I got you quick enough here, cause I never actually said what the vote was, so, go ahead.
I mean, the amended, to say that, the description of truck be amended such that the section 230B, section 230C reflects 2.5 meters of the 0.5 meters.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Just to capture, dually vehicles that come in at that weight.
Okay, just gonna have you, say it again. 230-C to reflect 2.5 meter,
Yes, with
2.5 meter width, versus what it presently reads.
2 meters.
2 meters.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yep. Yes.
And just to speak to the amendment, the
Yes,
reason
please.
behind it is a dually truck is over 2 meters. We would effectively be outlawing any dually truck being parked anywhere on the street in town, and on a residential street.
Indeed, and that doesn't work in Redneck, Alberta,
No,
not at all.
it's okay in the condos.
Yeah, it's good in a condo, Councilor Waring said. Rab wasn't impressed with that, but Rab, we're in Alberta, not Saskatchewan anymore. Okay, no, I think that friendly amendment is smart, and, it does serve our, residents well. So, we're all good now?
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's not a friendly amendment, it's just an amendment.
Amendment. I think all amendments are friendly, Okay. If we're good with that, any last comments before I call the question? Second reading of bylaw 20-1106. All in favor?
Wait,
Oh,
I think we have to vote on, don't we have to vote on my amendment first, because it's not friendly, right?
no,
No.
we're including them in, as
Okay,
amended.
Yeah.
It's
amended.
as amended, yeah. Oh, Councillor Holladay. No,
Just
you're
voting.
just ready to vote? Now, Wilkie, I'm gonna call the question. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All in favor? Excellent, we made it through seamlessly. That's carried unanimous. Can I get maybe a third reading, maybe? Sure, Councillor Wilkie?
Yeah, I'll give you third reading, of bylaw 20-1106, as an
That'll be third and final, if you could add.
third and final.
Thank you. That'd Very good, okay, thank you, and any other comments? 3, 2, 1, all in favor? Rab, you're hilarious. Excellent. Okay, and that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Officer Bowman, for coming in. And as always, be safe out there.
I think I'm still here for the property responsibility.
Are you now? Well, then don't
Let's do
move.
a break.
2-minute break? Sure. Go
I
ahead.
didn't want anyway.
We're just gonna excuse Councillor Waring for a second, and I'm gonna load my agenda while he does.
We're taking a recess.
Take a 2-minute recess, guys, if you want. Stretch your legs.
I'm so excited to see the property.
That's what we got right here now, right?
Yeah.
Pearl, 20. I get lost on these pages all the time.
You're in slow motion today. Presentation.
I know, right? I feel like
I'm ready to take the mic.
I gotta watch what I say.
The finance advisory.
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm on value. Probably not a good thing to say publicly. No. Yep, I covered it.
So,
I wouldn't go with value. The Advance much better here.
That was after my time. Yeah.
We could modify
I got a horrible story
RFD.
about that. Oh, yeah.
Presentation.
Yeah. Well, it's funny now.
oh, at the.
At the time of 19,
Do you know,
it was bad.
I had a mayor when I worked, in Nanton, and
Yeah.
hadn't realized that he was quite allergic to alcohol.
Oh,
The
yeah,
only
yeah.
one that
It
we
had,
have seen
whatever,
is
for whatever reason.
All the time,
We've
yeah.
seen it.
So we thought it was time maybe to just kind of loosen up a little bit and invite council to sometimes the monthly birthday celebrations. Somebody had made a cake. You could tell right away, and it just, it was.
Just gone. Excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specific
I
scenarios.
remember, yeah, I've changed, doing 2 major bylaws within 6 months is a lot of work. I usually do 1 every 3 years. So, I mean,
It was a team effort. A lot of work.
I guess going forward, we'll just, again, if you have questions, please answer. I'm not gonna go through the entire document.
Oh, I'm not planning on it. What I do wanna do is, just remind them of what GPAC had decided, and then going forward, the results of the legal review, not going through. And then we also have to make corrections, because 3 hands are in it, I missed something. I think Heather told it.
That's why,
It's the property responsibility, not the community.
yeah, that's what I have.
No, the RFD,
Oh, yeah.
the RFD.
Okay.
So that's confusing, so I think what happened is community standards and property
Mhm.
responsibility bylaw got mixed up.
Yep.
And if you recall, they were talking about blending them and so.
Yeah, no, or no.
One day for you, eh?
Yeah,
How's it going in Chester?
overworked, underpaid.
People that are in the lake must be a
Oh,
heck of
people
a
late, that's normal.
must be a heck of a thing to
No,
manage
it's,
that.
they're driving themselves crazy, but it's nice because all our beaches are quiet now. They started paying for, they started, charging admission to the beaches.
Yeah, for non-residents.
Yeah, and they were making 10 to 15,000 a year per day.
Unbelievable.
And,
But how do they control it? It's kind of like.
yeah, no, it's fenced off, security guards there.
But is it priority to residents?
Yep. Residents have priority, they go in for free.
But do they get in? Or do they have to line up like
No,
everybody else?
they go straight in. It's much like a bar. I mean, if it's full, we still have to, residents still have to wait till something, but they take priority over everybody else there. But we've never reached capacity yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No,
Oh, I thought for sure, but.
no, they
Cause
haven't.
Sylvan Lake did it.
Yeah,
But that'd be hard to manage. Oh my god, that'd be hard to manage.
yeah.
How much fencing would they have had to put up there? Goodness.
Some of it's a bit different, it's super narrow and stuff.
Okay, there's more beach area.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's like a couple
That's the problem, eh?
Have to sign off on each waivers.
My favorite
service
service
histories.
Yep.
All that stuff.
Yeah, you do that while we,
So that like the
you do that while these guys talk.
We have to go through the RCP.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Just had to go get some paperwork covered there. Okay, we got Cindy and Wilkie. Councillor Brab is, oh, there's his little hand, there you go. Perfect. Okay, we're just gonna reconvene here, guys. Let me just pull up this. And we're at, okay. Traffic bylaw's good, so that's third and final is complete. Third and final is complete. Community, 12.3 is the community responsibility bylaw, which we have Mr. Blunt is gonna present here. And this runs out of the the June 18th GPAC meeting. So, if we could, Heather. Sure. Sure. We're gonna get the presentation first, right? Yep, okay. Thank you. All right, the floor is yours, Mr. Blanc.
Thank you. And thank you again for the opportunity to be able to present what I know has been long awaited. But my first comment starts with a correction, and that is the community responsibility bylaw should actually be called the property responsibility bylaw. So I apologize for that. It's been through a few hands and lots of checks, but that one I missed completely. So as you see, any referral to the community responsibility bylaw should be property responsibility bylaw. So this is the culmination of a fairly long journey to trying to tweak as much as we could a bylaw that would be flexible yet very enforceable and allow our staff to be able to take it as far as we need to in terms of being able to have conformity amongst our residents when it comes to especially unsightly properties, but at the same time provide an education tool, something whereby we would be using education first and then enforcement after. This did go to the Governance and Priorities Committee at the June 18th meeting, at which time they made the following recommendations, and that was in section 2S to expand the definition of premises to include property lines. That has been done. Section 3, general prohibitions. This was to explore that there would be included no parking on grass front lawns. This has also been addressed. As well, under section 4.1 to include a grass height maximum. This was done at 15 centimeters. And then finally, section 4.2 to delete dandelions, as that was removed from the noxious weed, from the Weed Act. And going on from there, there are a number of notes that highlight all of the legal counsel that we received regarding two sides of it. We felt it was important to speak to our municipal lawyers who deal a lot with helping us develop some of the bylaws, as well as our Crown Prosecutor, who is the one that attends court and is the one that gives us advice in terms of enforceability. So there are a number of changes that were made, as well as just some tweaking of the wording. I'm hoping everybody's had an opportunity to take a look at that. Probably the feature that is much different from anything that you've seen before is that there's been some enforcement guidelines added to this. So it provides our officers some sense of how to be able to rate and assess what might be considered, for example, an unsightly premise. And I think it provides also a sense of fairness and reason when identifying that, and also as it escalates, then it gives a baseline of information by which to be able to gauge any further action. So that's a fairly lengthy document, but it does provide a lot of detail, which I hope is fairly clear and outlines any of the factors that should be considered when making that particular call or assessment. I would just perhaps ask Officer Bowman if there was anything that I missed that he wanted to add at this time.
No, not at this time, if the council has questions.
And if not, then we open it up for any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Can I get, before we begin discussion, a motion for first reading? And then we will get moving. Deputy Mayor Hamilton moves that. All right, and as the maker of the motion, you can have the floor first. Dominic, you could hit your button, please. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's good.
Thanks very much to administration, and Monique for, their work on this. I really think that, like you said, it is enforceable, it's clear, so thanks so much for that. I'm really happy to see it. One of the things that I was curious about, just out of curiosity, is some of the fines are pretty hefty on this. How many fines would we issue in a year for unsightly properties? I'm just wondering if that's something that we usually, like, that we're typically issuing fines for, or if it's pretty abnormal to see fines for these types of things.
Go ahead, Mr. Bowman.
To the CAO, to the chair, to Councilwoman Holladay. Our goal here, when it comes to people's property, is education before enforcement. When we get to the point where we have exhausted every possible avenue to get a property cleaned up, is there are countless hours of resources put into this. In addition, if we are going to lay a charge in this matter, we've also have to pay for our prosecutor's time. It shouldn't be the responsibility of another taxpayer to pay for someone else's contraventions, let's just say. In some cases, we may be required to clean up that property. If that's the case, the fines need to cover our cost to bring a company in to cover that. Anything taken off that property must be held for 30 days at our expense. Storage before, under the NGA, before we can do anything with it. The fines, while they are significant, they are designed to cover our costs. Now, it's certainly not a money-making endeavor by any means. I can advise, in the last 2 years, I think we've issued probably 3 or 4 unsightly property tickets. And in looking at the files, every avenue was exhausted to speak to these residents and get these resolved before we got to that point. We do not want to get to the point where we have to clean up a property. The responsibility on the municipality is huge then, and the drain on resources is significant.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comments, Cindy? Councillor Holladay, go ahead.
Yeah, the static on my end was really bad. I couldn't understand how many fines have been issued in the last couple of years. How many? 4? 3? 3 or 4? Okay.
You can speak.
I could speak. Stupid Zoom. 4. That's hilarious. Yes, 4 were issued in the last, and prior to any fine being given, extensive notifications and discussions were had with the residents in question prior to an actual fine being given. So every opportunity is exhausted because of the amount of work that comes afterward once the fine gets to that point. And the last thing we want to do is have to clean up other people's yards. And then there's a few reasons why 30-day holding of all the collected material being one of them. So it comes with an extra cost when we get to that point. Any other comments? Councillor Rad's good, Councillor Wilkie's good. Councillor Waring?
Good.
Good, okay, well, I'm good. So, Councillor Holladay, go ahead.
My only other concern with this bylaw was going back to the parking. We didn't want people parking in the front of the lawn, so 3.2 we said only parking in a driveway on certain materials. We don't define driveway. I mean, most people, it's common sense. You would know what a driveway is. But is it strong enough wording talked about last time.
Why not?
All right, that's a good catch for a definition. Any comment on that, Officer Bowman?
Sure. So if we look at 3.2, to be stored in a driveway except upon a driveway constructed of crushed gravel, cement, concrete, aggregate along those lines. That was a main concern with us going forward. We suggested changing the land use bylaw to ensure that we do have a ratio of landscape to pavement or aggregate in place, so we don't have people paving their entire front lawns.
Yeah.
That was a concern of ours. I have been assured that this is being looked at. As we move forward, I think we're relatively safe. That's not going to happen. However, again, before that happens, there have to be development permits and everything else like that made, and those can be addressed prior to anything happening or construction on that property and prevent this from happening.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Holladay.
Do people need a development permit to rip up their lawn and put gravel down? I don't know if we would catch this at all in older neighborhoods, you know, as an already built.
Isn't that
houses.
zero landscaping?
Yeah. I'd comment from a construction point of view, a lot of guys will, like, as you say, just do it most of the time, but by the book, they should get a development permit, $75, and it's not a hard process, but most people consider it yard landscaping and they just kinda do it anyway. That's just a, layman, but I'll let Officer Bowman make his comment.
That is also a concern. Again, I have spoken with planning on this, and this is a priority for them to include within the land use bylaw itself, so, I don't think we have much danger of that happening at this point. However, it is a concern, it has to be addressed, and it was recognized early in this process as a point of contention that we may have to deal with.
Okay. All right. Go ahead again. Yep, go ahead, Holladay.
Yeah, and just one last thing, worrying about urban, especially under urban reserve, and I understand that you guys are, take that much discretion on it, but looking under 3.2 in the list of different things that you're not allowed to park on your lawn, I think I've had every single one of them parked on my lawn in the last month, in a reserve. As well as I know, especially there's property down in Calta where they have, a few acres of land and there's motorhomes permanently parked on it. I don't know if there needs to be something, specifically giving exceptions to urban reserve people or not. I'm also worried about something small like a quad that somebody has that they have to install a gravel pit in order to park it in their backyard, even in normal residential areas. That's the only other concerns I had.
Okay.
So when dealing with some of these properties, a certain amount of discretion does come into play. What we can also look at in 3.2 is define it at the front of the house or the side of the house that's visible from the public, or it's visible from the street. Again, if you have a large acreage or a large estate-sized lot, you have a motorhome parked in the back, that's not a huge concern to us. However, if you have a pickup truck missing 2 tires and the bed's parked on your front lawn, that would take a priority with us. But again, we can better define this section to include a person's front yard, or as council sees fit, even the backyard or a fenced area.
Excellent. That leads me to another, just a simple thought, and that leads to the complaint process. So a lot of times, like I'm thinking of a particular property on the Calta, way back in the woods, you can see some trailers, totally fine, no one's ever gonna complain. It is a property, it is in town, but no one's ever gonna complain. So a lot of times, how is the complaint-driven process followed through? So we know there's areas that don't have an issue and no one's ever gonna complain even though they're not compliant, but they're off in the woods, it doesn't really matter, no one actually is concerned, and it's not hurting anyone. But when you get into the more, you know, as you say, you can see it from the side of the house, the more rural area, or the urban area, sorry, do you receive a lot of complaints about unsightly properties like trailers or boats, or mechanical trailers that are parked in view of other residents that actually consider it unsightly? How many a year do you probably receive? Just curious.
Overall, looking at our unsightly properties, in the course of a year, we probably received anywhere between 20 and 40.
That's fair enough.
Again, looking at these are complaint-based usually, unless they're absolutely egregious.
Yeah.
In defining, prior to this bylaw, in defining what an unsightly property is, it has to impact what the adjacent properties, or it has to be differentiated in appearance from the adjacent properties in that exact area. Just because somebody may have a quad or a boat parked on their lawn or something, the neighbor next door may have a trailer parked there. Is this consistent with this area? It is, then it's not really unsightly because it matches the area. Again, so we base it on a complaint basis. It's based on a complaint basis, and I can tell you a large majority of our complaints can be resolved in the first instance in speaking with them. We have had residents where they've basically operated a junkyard out of their properties, where it didn't matter what we did, we could not get compliance. So, and again, that was complaint based. But again, the offenses are so egregious that there was an environmental issue, there was public safety issues.
Mm-hmm.
But the public at that point, they did not want to get too far involved in that property. So again, they would gain compliance. It was a 3-year process and resulted in significant fines, much higher than when the bylaw at the time exhibited. In fact, the judge raised the fines, didn't feel they were strong enough. So, again, complaint-based, totality of the circumstances, and the danger to public safety, and how it impacts the adjacent residents.
Right.
So, we take it from there.
Excellent. Well, that's good. All right. No amendments? None at this time. Councillor Holladay? Go ahead.
I would like 3.2 fleshed out a little bit more. Like, I think if somebody has a plot in their backyard and there's a fence around it, you know, I'm hoping that people aren't gonna complain about little stuff like that, but I just want a little more time spent maybe on that.
Okay. So you'd like it defined more so as to how to make that agreeable? In terms of if you did have, let's just say a boat, the requirements to allow it, whether it be a parking pad, a fence, or so on?
It states it at the bottom.
Yeah, I think a fence to me is just as acceptable as a parking pad if it's in the backyard. These are, I mean, the whole purpose of the unsightly premises is more to, you know, this front yards and, you know, people turning their whole backyards into a dump, I guess, but I don't know. I just think there needs to be a little more concessions. Some people don't like to have gravel in their backyard. Or, well, I don't know. I'd leave it up to municipal enforcement. I think they understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, Councillor Waring just made a comment that it is covered, but I'm trying to find it. Where?
After G, the paragraph after G,
After G?
there's a small paragraph that covers it.
I'm just looking here.
It's
3.2 after G, to be parked, so all the vehicle, trailer, recreational vehicle, off-road, personal water, to be parked or stored on the property except upon a driveway constructed of either crushed gravel, cement, concrete, pavement, aggregate, or on any other material unless otherwise approved by the CAO or pursuant to the development permit or other valid permit issued by the town.
Covers everything.
I think what Councillor Holladay is looking for is a definitive answer in terms of fence height and so on.
That's in the bylaw, that's in the land use bylaw.
The land use bylaw. So let's get some clarification from Mr. Sharp on that.
So, thanks, Mayor Crane. Two comments. The first would be, we're taking a look at our land use bylaw and Officer Bowman and Ms. LeBlanc pointed out on a number of occasions, there's a couple things we can tinker with in the land use bylaw that will address some of these things. But more importantly, these bylaws aren't meant to be an exhaustive list of everything that we can quote unquote catch people doing wrong. If we run into a theme that we're running into or something that's not holding up in court or something like that, we can come back to you and we can amend the bylaw. So I think the way, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick and Trevor, but the way this has been sculpted is based on what Trevor's experience has been, what the legal experience has been, and where things need to be amplified in order to give Trevor and Todd the tools that they need to do their job. So I don't know about quads in urban reserve and those kinds of things and whether, but I can tell you that I will bet dollars to donuts that Trevor's not going looking for that type of a thing in these cases unless there's a complaint, and then his discretion would take over. So if there are some specific examples maybe that Councillor Holladay has that she thinks we're gonna run into, excuse me, I would be all ears, excuse me. But we can still make those amendments if Councillor Holladay feels strongly about them. But in the meantime, I think that the major themes have been addressed. We could go, we need to get a motion on the floor.
Yep, motion's already made.
Did you make it, Councillor Holladay? Okay, I apologize. So we can we can move forward with that amendment if you like, or we can bring it back if we were finding we have some problems.
Just a quick point of clarity, and maybe you can answer it, because I see where Councillor Waring is saying it's covered, Councillor Holladay, and that's pursuant to a development permit. And the development permit is where you would address a simple fence height, for example. So maybe that is the simple at this point. But it's up to you, it's your comfort level, Councillor Holladay, so if you feel there's something else. Ms. Thompson, your comment?
The first reading's on the floor. If there was any amendments,
Yeah.
that should be made following the second reading.
Okay, perfect. So, first reading doesn't require us to make amendments. We can do that at the second reading. So we can take that forward as a recommendation to get some clarity around, bring it back at second reading, and then we could decide on that then if that works for you. Excellent. Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor of first reading? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Officer Bowman and Ms. LeBlanc, for attending tonight. I believe you are released at this point, yes? Second?
We want it for second and third.
Well, they did-
No, we never do one, two.
Yeah, we're not gonna do 1, 2, and 3, so.
You could do second.
You're good, no, because we want some clarity on 3.2 as Councillor Holladay wanted. So we'll bring that back at September 8th for a quick update, and then we can do second reading at that time.
Makes sense.
Yep, easy peasy. Okay, give me a second to scroll up here. We're going to 12.4, the Friendship Agreement Committee, Bylaw 20-1110, Amendment to Terms of Reference. And I'm just gonna scroll up here. Meanwhile, I'm gonna hand it over to Mr. Sharp to lead us off. Go ahead, Mr. Sharp.
Good morning. Thanks, Mayor Crane. I think I just said good morning.
You did. You said good morning. I was gonna say, yeah. Can I get a copy?
We've been here that long already.
Thanks for the floor. Before you is a request for decision of council to amend our joint friendship agreement bylaw with the town of Turner Valley. At the last, two friendship committee meetings ago, the committee recognized that it needed a more, clear means for, approving and making resolutions coming out of the committee. Currently, the bylaw reads that we needed consensus and or quorum, and it lacked, clarity. At that meeting, there was a resolution of the committee that, dictated that there needed to be 80% positive vote on a motion, to provide a resolution coming out of committee. And therefore, we're asking the amendment to the bylaw to reflect that. There are two areas. We would like to remove the word consensus because that lacked clarity, and insert a motion will be defeated unless 80% of the committee members present at the meeting vote in favor of the motion. So that is the change. Turning your attention to the content of the RFD, there are a couple of things in there that we added, and Black Diamond will do the same for their council to provide clarity and for illustrative purposes. Specifically, the second last paragraph on the first page of that RFD, in checking with municipal affairs, they indicated that council quorum must round up. What's missing in there is the ability for committees to do something otherwise. So, for example, if 8 out of 11 attendees doesn't quite equal the 80%, you would need 9 of the attendees to vote in a favorable manner in order to pass a resolution. Committee could choose to round down if it so choose, and in fact that's the way committee did agree to do it at the June and July FAM committee meetings. So that was missing from there. The second thing is regarding the table that's in the RFD, that was just meant for illustrative purposes, and in fact is there to show what rounding up would look like. It doesn't mean that that actual table will go in the bylaw. It simply means that it would be some table similar would be created for the chair, the co-chairs of the committee, for easy reference when a matter is put to vote, and you would know precisely how many positive votes depending on the size of the voting members present. So our recommendation is to simply make the change to the bylaw as directed by committee, and then refer back to committee at the next regular meeting to develop a chart similar to what is in the RFD that would show the number of votes required to pass a motion. So in some cases there will need to be a rounding up or a rounding down, but we would leave it to committee to determine that. As I said in the last two committee meetings, committee had agreed that rounding down rather than up would provide the adequate number of votes, and we can continue that conversation at the next committee meeting.
But this chart is rounded up, not rounded down.
That's correct. The chart for illustrative purposes is rounded up to show what the rounding would do. We're not necessarily advocating for rounding up, we're simply just using that for illustrative purposes.
I was a bit confused.
Yeah. So we're looking for a first, second, and third reading of the amendment to the bylaw tonight. It's an administrative change already directed by committee. The terms of reference does allow the committee to make those changes, and so we think from an administrative standpoint, we can go for second and third readings tonight without any sort of significant stressors.
I'll give you first.
Okay, we have Councillor Waring giving us first reading. Did Council at home catch all of the comments made by Mr. Sharp? Because your cameras went out, Wilkie and Rapp. You were good? Okay, excellent. All right. So first reading, any comments? Straightforward. This motion comes straight out of our last FAM meeting to increase to the 80% majority rule, and any variation of the rounding up or down will fall with the committee at FAM at that time. So that's not needed to be debated in this recommendation. Any comments on first motion, Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
So we're not putting in the bylaw clarification on the rounding up or down. We're just saying 80% and, okay.
Yep, that was all that was ever directed by committee. The content in the RFD, including the table, is just for illustrative purposes.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Not seeing anything. Silence is permission. Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Can I get a motion for second, please? Councillor Rabb gives me a motion for second reading. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Excellent, that's second reading. Can I get a motion to consider third and final reading? Wilkie will give me that. It's a motion to consider third and final reading. All in favor? Excellent, that's unanimous, thank you. And can I get a motion for final reading? And Councillor Holladay gives me that. Any comments? Last, Blanche? All in favor? Thank you very much, that's unanimous. Excellent, thank you, that's just a simple, straightforward administrative duty, so thank you for allowing that one to go by there, Councillor Rob. I didn't miss it, don't worry. Okay. Moving on, old business, 13.1, we have no items. 14.1, financial plan guidelines and assumptions, capital and operating budget. We have Miss Middleton in the room. She's gonna come sit at the center desk and light up the microphone. Councillors Wilkie and Holladay, you guys would have, and Rab, you would have seen this at Finance Committee, correct? All three? Yes. No? Yes. Wilkie wasn't there. Alright, good stuff. Okay. Ms. Milton, floor is yours.
So, good evening, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council, for allowing me to bring forward our 2021 financial plan guidelines and assumptions. And as stated earlier, the majority of this document, with the exception of some of the changes recommended by the Finance Advisory Committee, were discussed at the August 10th meeting. So, as previous years, the 2021 financial plan is comprised of three primary key documents. We have the 10-year capital plan, which we're going to prepare, which is new in the fact that every previous years we've done it, but we are really doing a robust 10-year plan this year. It's going to be 2021 to 2030. And including in that, we have the 2021-2022 capital budget funding options, the justification documents, the TCA ranking document, and the TCA ranking process. Those all form our 2021-20 to 2030 capital plan. We also have our 4-year operating plan, which this year we're going to do 2 years. It's going to be 2021 and 2022. As well as forecast years 23 and 24. And included in there is a variety of breakdowns of different reports that will be prepared to provide additional information as necessary to council to make their decisions. As well, we have the financial plan guidelines document, capital and operating. So what's new for 2021? For this year, we're going to the financial planning process. We are going to do multi-year budgets, so we're going to do 2021 and 2022. It is the intention to prepare a multi-year budget involving the 2-year period. Administration feels that it will assist with the next council with the election coming in 2021. It will alleviate pressure on administration as the budget is a significant amount of time and amount of work. And we just want to make sure from an administration perspective, there's still the ability to make any changes that we deem necessary when we get into fall 2021. So although we're going to do a very robust budget for both of those years, 2021 and 2022, if there are significant modifications or new information would present itself in the fall of 2021 that would impact the 2022 budget, we'll adjust it accordingly. As far as deadlines, they're very similar to prior year. It is the intention of administration to have the 2021 financial plan process completed prior to the end of 2020. As well, we really wanna make sure that we have a really good community engagement, public participation for the budget. So you'll see this mentioned throughout the documents. We will make sure that we include ample time to ensure that the public gets an opportunity to discuss the budget. So the key dates for 2021 on the capital side, so as stated earlier, we presented to the Financial Advisory Committee on August the 10th. And here we are today, August 17th, we're presenting to council the guidelines. September 2020, so our intention is to have an initial document for the September 21st council meeting. So council will get the opportunity first to review and get a first-hand look at the capital budget. Within that, we'll have a preliminary project list with some justification and TCA rankings available. So you notice in the box in the middle, we have the community feedback. So there's been lots of discussion around perhaps a coffee with council, let's talk budget, and other engagement sessions with residents to discuss key capital projects. October 2020, as well, you see October 5th, we'll bring that budget back, and then we'll take it to the Financial Advisory Committee on October 12th. So overall, our intention for the capital budget is to have it approved by November the 16th, 2020. So on the operating side, I won't speak to August because we're going through this process now, and it's similar to what we're doing with the capital side. The operating budget components, we're gonna bring the first round to council on September 21st. We're then gonna bring it to the Financial Advisory Committee on October 12th, and we're gonna bring it back to council on October 21st, November 23rd, and then we have all the way to December 21st as needed to get the budget approved.
Sorry, Eric, I'm sorry, Karine, I've lost track of where you're, I'm trying to show.
Yeah, we're doing
Oh,
capital and you're doing
oh.
operational.
I think you have the wrong, here, let me just send you something.
Let's go grab a coffee if that's okay. Let's continue.
This is the one you sent me here, just
Yeah,
before
I
council.
think it's not, I think that's the one for management tomorrow. Okay. So we're on slide number 5. Here you
This
go.
one?
Yep,
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
that's okay, that's my fault, sorry. So as you can see, the expectation is that we're hoping to get the operating budget, final approved by December 21st, 2020. And we have, as you can see in the process, we've built in a lot of opportunity to bring this through, council and to engage the public. So as in previous years, we're following our strategic priorities as set by council for 2018 to 2021. So this is excellence in governance, optimized service delivery and fiscal responsibility, community development and growth management, and be a destination community. And as you can see, those form the guiding principles behind our financial planning process. So at the very top, you'll see the council's strategic priorities, and that's really what takes us through the financial planning process. So we go all the way through down from the start, July to August, where we begin the process of doing our assumptions and guidelines document. We go through and we start doing the business unit, business plan draft, September to November. We do the full draft budget all the way through to November, and then we've built in the the council budget deliberations which take place now. As well, we have the community feedback. So I won't spend a lot of time, but public participation and resident input is a key component of this budget, so, and the planning process. We'll follow, as we go through the public planning process, we'll follow the public planning plan, participation plan that was developed in accordance with the policy number MPA 18.14. And public participation and engaging residents is a positive means of building and maintaining an open and positive relationship with the public. We're gonna ensure public participation is part of the financial planning process. We're gonna engage residents early in the process, so it will occur late October, early November. A coffee with council, let's talk budget format with respect COVID-19, allow the residents the opportunity to interact and ask questions about the operating and capital budgets. We just wanna make sure that we allow input on what will be going on through the financial planning process. It will give the opportunity for administration and council to understand the needs and wants of the residents of Turner Valley. So the town must adhere to the legislative requirements of the MGA, so there's a number of sections within the MGA that we must follow as we prepare and we go down the financial planning process. There's the adoption of the operating budget, the contents of operating budget, adoption of capital budget, the contents of the capital budget and the annual budget, and the financial plans and capital plans. So all of these particular sections in the MGA, the town of Turner Valley, as we go through the budget process, we must make sure that we adhere to the requirements. So we've gone through a lot of this, we went through this in previous years. It's just important to update and to ensure that everyone is aware of what the roles and responsibilities are of the committee, council, and administration in the budget process. So because 2020 is the first year that we're gonna have our financial advisory committee involved in the 2021 financial process, their role will be to provide recommendations to council on the financial planning process, both operating capital, ensuring alignment with operating principles and assumptions that will guide the execution of the strategic priorities, and present these recommendations to council at regular and special meetings. Council's role in the budgeting process is governance and policy setting, establish programs and service delivery expectations, determine the strategic priorities which will guide administration's actions, ensure administration has the necessary resources to execute and achieve its goals and strategies, determine and approve the operating principles and assumptions that will guide the execution of the strategic priorities, and annual review and assessment of strategic priorities. As far as administration's role is in the budgeting process, we are responsible for ensuring we have the capacity to execute the strategic priorities of council. Administration are the gatekeepers of the financial resources to ensure effective utilization of town resources. We implement, maintain, and assess service delivery and service levels as determined by council. We develop and maintain the budget and other administrative processes with the 2021 planning. Administration is responsible for preparation of both the capital and operating budgets for council's review and adoption in accordance with the legislation. So the section 1 for our 2021 general budget assumptions. So as we stated, the budgets are prepared in accordance with the town of Turner Valley's policy. It's attached in your package. The CAO and department managers are responsible for compilation of their department budgets. Administration has a robust review process where we look at prior year budgets, update variances greater than 2% for wages and all other expenses 5,000 or 10%. We look at all personnel changes and they must be fully supported, and increases must have a business case to justify changes. As well, any major operating expenditures must be fully supported, so there's documents that we have to justify any major operating expenditures. Key assumptions are based on actual information that we're able to obtain, research, and any current year information. So, current year information, we know there's some challenges with current year just because of COVID-19. So, we may have to look at previous years as more of a guideline, but we'll use certainly current year. So, key areas that we're gonna consider as far as our financial planning process are review of property taxes. We'll look at pool fees, the flare and derrick rental charges, utility rate reviews, so that is something that we can look at on an annual basis. And we'll look at our major operating expenditures and any third-party joint initiatives. As well, we look at inflation. It also, well, this year may not, but in previous years, it can be deemed to be a significant component of the budget changes. The rate applied, we will use August inflation rate. It will be released on September the 16th. Currently, the May inflation rate was 0.3%. So I would expect that we'll likely see perhaps a lower inflation rate this year than previous years, and that would be specifically around what we've seen with COVID-19. So salary, wages, and benefits. So in 2018, we rescinded the COLA increases. So any increases are merit-based on performance and must be justified. CPP will continue to increase, and that's going to be increasing probably the next 5 years. We don't foresee any significant adjustments to benefits. As far as debt, so any debt we decide we would want to finance, there is an operating expense component to it. The current cost of debt as of August 1st through Alberta Capital Finance Authority, where we would do any significant borrowing. For a 3-year term, you're looking at about 0.7229%. Short-term borrowing, and then a longer term, 30-year, we're looking at about 2.1651. These rates are really low, and they've been going down substantially in the last few months. As far as fuel goes, the price of fuel we're expecting to remain stable. 2021 we're pricing at $1.10 a liter. In 2022 we're pricing at $1.20. A lot of that increase will be due to the federally mandated carbon tax that will be added on. Utility expenses are based on commodity price of electricity and natural gas and the administrative transmission and distribution fees. So Turner Valley currently has a hedge on electricity to minimize exposure to price fluctuations. The hedge is set to expire December 31st, 2020, and has been very effective at guaranteeing price certainty. We have a current RFP that's been out, and we're expecting that the contract price is going to be around $56 a megawatt hour. So that's a little bit higher than what we currently pay, but in talking with our electricity, the organization that's currently running the RFP, they're thinking it might be under $55. So the price, we're still waiting to secure the price, but they're watching the market and we're ready to execute if the price drops a little bit. But
What's the price now?
we're looking at about 54, 55 a megawatt hour. So they're thinking we might be able to see it go down a bit, but we've used 56 here. That would be, I think, a very top end. I would expect it's gonna come in under 55.
Just a question, and that comes back to council if I'm correct for a decision as a contract, correct?
So what happens is the RFP has gone out. We had 3 companies that brought back potential prices. So what will happen is when we decide we're going to execute is the day when we'll need the signatories.
So it might not come back to council, we'll just go with the best deal.
So the decision authority, the authority rests with certain thresholds in our purchasing policy. So depending on the anticipated value of that contract, it will either rest with Kareen and her authority or mine, or
Yeah.
if it exceeds mine, it would come to you, so no different than any other contract that we would have.
Right. I only bring that up because I wanted to look into the Foothills Energy Co-op a few years ago, but because we were locked into a contract, time was a waste of time. But now I see it expires December 31, 2020, so there's an opportunity to maybe have that conversation, but you're saying it's already gone out, and if you're not in the running at this point, you're not in the running.
So that is correct. The RFP went out and it was posted. So it went through all the proper channels, and
Right.
part of it is the volume, you know, can limit the number of participants. But we think we have a really good opportunity to keep the price very close or similar to what we had.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks for clarity.
So our last bit of utilities on the natural gas side, and you know, prices have really been quite depressed for a number of years. We don't hedge natural gas. We're exposed to the market fluctuation, which we've come out favorable just because the prices have been so low. Carbon tax has been imposed by the federal government and therefore budgeted in natural gas costs. So we're forecasting for 2021 about $2.75 a GJ, and for 2022, $2.90 a GJ, and this is based on what we've received from our energy provider. For the water utility, so a utility rate review, we conducted it in 2019. Annual adjustments will be made in accordance with the bylaw, if we deem them necessary. So the formula for calculation of the rates is currently below. So we have the fixed fees, and then we have the consumptive rates as they're stated. So as we go through the budgeting process and we work with our third parties on what the potential requisition costs might be, we will address whether the current utility rates are will allow us to still be maintained through to 2021 and 2022.
Correct, Mayor?
Yep. Go ahead, Councillor Ray.
So I assume when you do this, you'll show us what the anticipated cost and the income was for the utilities in 2020. So we've got real numbers to work with.
So to address your correct question through the mayor, Councillor Ray, absolutely. Yeah, we will look at that as we go through the budgeting process.
Okay. Thank you.
So some population growth projections. As we're all aware, there was significant growth from 2011 to 2016. In recent years, we've seen the population stabilize, and the growth rates we're predicting for 2021 and 2022 are 1%. And most of this is just we have limited subdivision development. If any subdivisions are turned over to the town, we want to make sure that we have all the operational and maintenance costs included, so we will add those into the operating budget as required. We also have included allocations and internal charges. These are very similar to previous years. We have methodologies that we use in order to make it fair and equitable among all the businesses. As well, things like insurance, telephone, IT services, and the utility bills, we make sure that they're allocated to the appropriate businesses and facilities. Methodology is largely based on consumption, for WCB, for insurance, and for IT services, they're based on department staffing levels and equipment allocations. So the capital budget, so we're gonna prepare the 10-year capital plan. Justifications are required and must be clearly articulated by the manager or the project lead. As previous years, the ranking process will be utilized to support any large TCA projects and additions. A contents of the capital budget will include the estimated amount for the acquisition, construction, removal, or improvement of capital property, the anticipated sources and amounts of money to be paid, to pay the cost of the capital property, and any operating impact must be incorporated into the financial plan on the operating component side. So as inflation does play a factor as well in our capital budget, as stated earlier, the current inflation is 0.3. I'm thinking the likely inflation will be somewhere between 0.5 and 1.5%. The capital thresholds that we use are fairly consistent with those guidelines that are outlined through the CPA and the public sector accounting. Once again, we'll be looking at the ranking requirements, including the non-discretionary, discretionary criteria, makes sense criteria. And that ranking criteria includes 8 key criteria which each tangible capital asset project must go through. All rankings will be prepared by the CAO and Manager Finance and Corporate Services and discussed with project sponsors. Rankings will be communicated and dialogue on project priority will be determined. And an AFE will then be required to complete the capital budget process. So this is the TCA document that is the ranking criteria. So this year what we've done is we have 8 items. We've combined our strategic priorities into number 2, and we put fiscal policy responsibility on its own, and the overall total of the ranking will be 105. So where in previous years it was 117 and we eliminated 1. This year we have it at 105, and the project will go through every single one of the criteria. So as well as the TCA criteria document, we have the authorization for expenditure, and this includes all additional details on the TCA. So this will be, it provides the determination of the funding source, the estimated cost of the project, the description of the project, justification as to why is this project being recommended and what are the cost benefits, and identify and quantify any impact on operating budgets. So in previous years, would be the cover page, and then any additional documents would be attached behind it, just to support the overall project requirements. So that concludes my presentation of the assumptions for the capital and the operating for the 2021 financial planning process. So I will field any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Council, starting with those at home, but you guys were all there except for Wilkie. Any comments? Quite comfortable with the processes laid out? Okay, we're gonna go to Deputy Mayor Hamilton. And my battery to my phone, which is the video you guys were watching, is dead, so now I'm watching you guys on the big screen. So just raise your hand and I'll give you a quick nod that I recognize you, and then I'll put you in the queue. So Deputy Mayor Hamilton, go ahead.
Thanks to Corinne and the Finance Committee for their work on this. It's greatly appreciated. Something that I thought that was missing from the key areas that will be considered is the changes to the police costing. I'm wondering, like, that's a new amount in our budget this year, estimated at over $50,000. That's something I think for us all to be pretty aware of, and adding to that the inflation that we think is going to be around 0.3. What those two things sound like to me are an increase to our budget, and subsequently an increase to our taxes. So I think we need to be very aware of that, and that's just setting red flags to me, because we've got unemployment at 14% in Alberta. We're in a COVID pandemic where families are not capable of paying more in taxes. So I just think we need to be really cognizant of this come budget season. season, and we need to start brainstorming on where we can find 0.3% for inflation and 50,000+ for our police costing. Other thing I wanted to touch base with really quickly was the capital projects. I was just wondering what administration is using for their list for capital projects on bringing back to council in November 2020. So we've got a couple months here, and I don't know if we've had much input into that since the spring.
So through the mayor, to answer your question regarding the policing, so it's my expectation and I could be wrong, that requisition is gonna be handled very much like the education requisition, and we will get a requisition from the government. So I'm not sure how much we have involvement, because I'm expecting it's gonna be similar to the school requisition, because we get the school requisition, we just put it on the tax bylaw. So how I would expect it's gonna go out, it's basically revenue in and expense out.
But it is an increase on tax.
Councillor Ryan? You can mic up.
Yeah, I mean, if it's $50,000, for example, it's gonna be $50,000 divided by the 1,140 taxpayers, divided by 12, and that's gonna be the average increase per household per next year. So unless we can find $50,000 worth of savings in our basic costs, it's gonna be an increase.
That was my point entirely, John, is that there's going to be an increase in taxes of $50,000 due to police costing. To me, it doesn't matter how it shows up on the tax bill, like where it is in a line item. We need to find $50,000 somewhere in our budget, because people are not capable at this time of taking on additional costs. And I don't know what that would be per household, but I'm sure it would be substantial. So, and whether it comes like as a school requisition or not, it's an increase. Yeah. But back to the capital projects, I was just wondering which ones administration is focusing on.
It's $3.65 a month.
So to address your question through the mayor, so what we'll do is we'll likely start, the administration will take the project list that we've had in previous years, or we brought forward last year, and we'll start to scrub it out. And we've been doing some work on our assets, and we'll see, I guess, what we come back with. As of this point, we have the previous year capital plan. We'll definitely be using that as a starting point as we begin to go down the financial planning process. So, we have the projects that we're working on in 2020 that were part of the 2020 budget, and then we'll look at the ones that we put back into the budget. They'll go back into the 2021 baseline, and we'll do the justification once again, and we'll go through the ranking process once again for those projects.
Okay, and one more follow-up, and then Wilkie, I got you.
Okay, just one more quick thing. Are we going to add to capital projects the cost, or potential cost of the amalgamation? Because that maybe is something that we're proceeding with and needs to be on our radar for capital spending, and priorities need to be adjusted accordingly.
Speak closer to the mic, Cindy.
Oh, sorry, I was just saying that we need to add the cost or the potential cost of amalgamation to our capital projects list, and that we might need to juggle accordingly, as this is something we've committed to spending the next year on.
That's a good point. Absolutely.
So capital or operating?
Yeah.
And just so I can get my head around again, so you're gonna bring back our first Blanche first meeting October?
November.
September.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna start the process right away and get moving, so we can start picking away here and have it ideally wrapped up like we did last year by December. Excellent. I like the fact that we're nice and early again with this process. We're getting ahead of the game, and we've got the finance committee giving first Blanche, second Blanche before it got to council here, so that's great. Wilkie, you had some comments, so I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, I missed the finance committee meeting, so I didn't catch all of that discussion, but just wanted to, and sorry, there was a bit of static, so it was tough for me to hear when we were responding to Deputy Mayor Hamilton's question. The starting point for capital projects, is that going to, because there was a lot that was, deferred essentially with the COVID, so I'm not sure if I caught the answer to that. Those will all appear again on this capital budget and will form part of this process. I'm seeing nodding, so that's great. Just a general comment then on taxes. I agree that the total bill matters, but I also strongly feel that there's a difference between costs downloaded onto us that we might not have elected to spend as a council versus other costs. So I'm always looking for every penny of savings that I can find, but I think I've mentioned this before that it's important to draw a distinction between the municipal budget that's within our control and other items that are outside of our control as well. So I think that's important to keep in our minds.
Thank you. There was no question in there, right? That was just a general statement?
No, it was just a question on the capital project, but I got nods on that.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you. Rev, did you want to have comment, or are we good to wrap her up?
No, I won't comment at all. I was involved in the finance committee, so I've kind of heard this presentation before, and I thank creative staff for it. My only comment would be that we're getting a lot of static. When Deputy Mayor Hamilton spoke, there was a lot of static in the background, so it was very difficult to hear. So keep your microphones off is what I ask you to do, please.
Okay, no problem. Well, it's sad that it was static because it was so well said and so much content in it and you missed it. I mean, it's just it. Okay, if that's all good, I think we're ready to accept this for information moving forward, and I look forward to the process rolling. I'm gonna give floor to, don't even need to accept it for information, just presentation. Go ahead, Mr. Sharp.
No, we're asking you to approve the budget guidelines and assumptions on the capital side.
Excellent. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve that? Okay, Councillor Rapp, to approve this for the guidelines and assumptions for the capital section only at this time. We'll do operations as an amendment next meeting. So capital only. That's your motion, Mr. Rapp. Thumbs up. Yes, okay, good. Any further comments? All in favor? Excellent, thank you, that's carried. All right, moving on, thank you, Ms. Middleton. I'm just gonna put a check mark here. General correspondence, we have no items. Correspondence action considered, we have one item, 16.1 Cold Lake, City of Cold Lake, call for support for the criminal code amendment related to the firearms and other weapons. So you see in your package here, we have a whereas statement from Cold Lake, from the mayor's office, regarding, at the City of Cold Lake, council meeting June 23rd, 2020, City Council debated and passed a motion regarding concerns relating to the criminal code amendments approved under an order in council on May 1, 2020. The City of Cold Lake is calling upon all municipalities in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba to voice their concerns along with their respective provincial governments. The following resolution has been passed. Basically, we're asking the federal government to rescind the firearms, what words are in my mouth? Swearing? Help me out here.
Well, it's the change they made in what gun they're allowed
Yeah,
to.
basically what they did in May regarding the guns.
So
Trying to get rid of the scary gun bylaw.
Yeah, council lobbied the federal government to revoke the amendments to the criminal code on May 1, 2020 under an order in council titled and referred to as Regulations Amending the Regulations Prescribing Certain Firearms and Other Weapons, Components and Parts of Weapons, Accessories, Cartridge, Magazines, Ammunitions, and Projectiles as prohibited, restricted, or non-restricted. So you've all seen it on the news, you've all heard the debates. I don't know why he just kept it to 3 provinces, just send it to them all, but, so be it.
Ban all guns.
So, there you go, you have it in front of you.
Except for information.
We can accept it for information.
Yep.
Plain and simple. Motion by Councillor Waring, good, nice
Oh.
nod. Excellent.
Oh, I don't.
All in favor? And that's carried.
All
Good.
against?
All against? You can't go against your, okay, moving on, we can get out of here maybe before 10. Committee board correspondence minutes. So 17.1, Sheep River in Municipal Library, that's me. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of May 7th, 2020 as presented. Any comments, questions, concerns? It's all good over at the library, I assure you. They got all the COVID protocols in place right now.
Free masks.
Free masks.
We've got masks. If you
There you
need.
go. It's all moving quite smooth. All in favor? Excellent. 17-2. West End Regional Sewage Services Commission. Robin Waring. I'm looking for who's fastest.
Rab's in charge of that. So
Rab's in charge.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept those minutes from the West End, meeting, I think it was back in June. if
June
I'm not mistaken.
23rd, yeah.
I mean,
23rd, yeah.
we've had lots of action on, West End, and we got busy times going ahead, so, with our new governance structures, and so it's an interesting time, and it's pretty much covered in that meeting minutes. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Deputy Mayor Hamilton.
I just had a quick question regarding that pump that, Turner Valley wanted looked at. Is there any news on that?
it
No?
wasn't a pump.
Oh, it wasn't a pump, I thought it was a pump. At our last update, there was, the 2 Turner Valley members have requested that something even be looked at. The rest of the committee did,
Flashing still.
okay.
The couple of things we're interested in from the point of view of Turner Valley was the installation of a new meter. Yes.
Oh,
For
meter.
measuring the flow of effluent.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing we were interested in is that section of pipeline that runs from the bank of the Sheep towards the golf course, which keeps breaking. And that's been investigated, and we know what's causing the problem and everything else, but the feeling is it would be far too expensive to replace the pipe compared with fixing the odd break. Basically, the whole pipe was installed incorrectly on the wrong base, so it's not sitting on a nice firm compacted base. So any movements of vehicles or the like in the area can impact the pipes and break them. So every time they break one, they fix it, they fix the ground around it, and hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Did they look at the meter?
The meter has been delivered, it's not yet been installed, they're working on the bypass line, and when the bypass line is completed, my leader's going to tell you something.
Councillor Rapp, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Waring. We have the bypass, I just saw the bill, I just signed the bill, so we have, the bypass has been done. So now they're gonna wait for a time when they won't put that meter in, so it's very high up on the agenda, but it hasn't been done. But our bypass construction has been done, so we're ready for the meter.
Excellent.
And that, the area that Councillor Waring's talking about that seems to be wrecking all the time is up in, what's the name of that subdivision, John? Royalite?
Right.
It's the main
It's
drag.
Roy- it's Royalite
That's where it
North.
keeps breaking, and they're hoping to keep the trucks off, so going back to our bylaw we passed earlier, Councillor, we can't have heavy vehicles driving over that because we'll have more breaks, it sounds like.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holladay.
sure I'm caught up on this. So this is our new sewer line, because the old one, as we know, is blocked, and after the flood, that's the new sewer line that's breaking. Because it was installed correctly, so
Incorrectly.
not only did we have to pay for overstring sewage, no, this is not the same line.
Let me tell it.
Okay, Councillor Waring's gonna clarify again.
Where the original sewer pipeline goes from the lift station at Turner Valley, which is near the gas plant, under the Sheep River, and this is the original pipeline, not the new pipeline. So it's that section of pipe that goes up to where the new section of pipe went in across the golf course. So there's about 300 or 400 meters of pipe that was installed on a bad base. So in normal conditions, there's not a problem, but every so often heavy equipment goes down there for one reason or another, and the weight of the equipment moves the earth around, the pipes rub on the pointy rocks underneath it, and you end up with a break. So every time there's a break, they excavate all around the area, they backfill the area with good material, they repair the pipe, and carry on.
So it's the
So it's
original
nothing
pipe.
to do with the brand new pipe. It's a pipe that's been there since 1900 and, when did they change? 57, 60? When they put the line into Black Diamond and they closed the sewer place in Turner Valley. Long time ago.
Okay. There you go. Okay, so it's the original pipe, not the new one. It's the section that runs to the new pipe, which is about 300 meters long. So, okay.
It cost $1 million.
And all in favor of adopting those minutes? And that's carried, thank you. Joint Friendship Agreement Committee. And Councillor Wilkie gives motion to adopt those.
There's 2 sets.
There's 2 sets, February 13th and July 16th. Are you gonna do both, Mr. Wilkie?
Apparently.
Absolutely, good stuff. All right, any comments on those? Straightforward, good. I think we're making great progress with Black Diamond, so that's fantastic. Okay, all in favor? And that's carried, good. 17.4, Financial Advisory Committee, what's that, Councillor Holladay, what? You make a motion? July 13th, 2020, is that correct? Yes. Any comments on that? No comments? All in favor? Excellent, that's carried. 17.5, Intermunicipal Economic Development Committee. Look at me, Waring. Oh, that's a motion from Councillor Waring for the June 11th, 2020. Yes, it is. Any comments regarding that? Clarifications, if you have it, Waring can answer, he's the member. Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Excellent. And MPC, we have a letter of resignation from Ms. Nelson, who's been a long-standing member. I'm just gonna ask because I'd love to know how many years did she sit?
She says in her letter.
Well, I don't have a letter in front of me, but how many? 11 and a half?
12.
12.
12 and a half years.
12 and a half years. So that was an outstanding commitment from a member of the public and a member at large for sitting on MPC. And her experience will be greatly missed, but we truly appreciate her dedication to the community and helping on several committees, this just being one of them. And again, just fantastic job, and hard to see her go, but times are moving on and it opens up a spot for another member at large. Councillor Holladay?
Yeah, 2 things. I'm just wondering if we can get a formal letter of thank you or card written to Maureen to tell her thank you for her service. And then I'm also looking for if could get an updated list of, like, 12.5 years is a long time, and people would like to probably be notified when their term's up and given the option to renew. So if we could get a summary, maybe in September, of what positions are supposed to be rotated, and start advertising them. September seems to be the time everybody gets back into the swing of things and signing up for volunteering, so, I think we could start advertising vacancies in September, that'd be great.
I think that's a great idea, both from the thank you letter, obviously we're gonna get something great for it. But a great heads up prior to our organizational meeting in October, because we always have that happen where we go, oh, we had to get on that, so great to remember that. Councillor Rab, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Ms. Nelson for all the work she's done for MPC and her tremendous commitment to our community and over the years. And she will be sorely missed, and I was only on MPC for, I believe, 2 years. And the things that I appreciated about her is the history that she had for our community, history and the interest she has in our community. So she'll be thoroughly missed, and we need to make an extra effort to thank her for all her awesome work.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
Yeah, I echo our Councillor Rob and his comments. Maureen did a fantastic job on this committee, and so much history. She seemed to know what was going on all the time, so we're definitely gonna miss her. I was talking to Judy, and we had thought too that it would be really great to have a coffee and do a formal goodbye with the MPC when, you know, maybe when COVID restrictions ease up a little bit. We thought that would be a nice thing to do as well, so.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get the motion to accept letter of resignation and then also, oh, Mr.
There is a formal administrative recommendation there for.
So someone needs to read that.
I just said mine off.
Okay, Councillor Hamilton?
That council regretfully accept Ms. Nelson's,
Yep, there you go. Yeah, we got it.
that council regretfully accept Ms. Nelson's resignation from Municipal Planning Commission and directs administration to send a letter of gratitude on council's behalf for Ms. Nelson's years of dedicated service to the commission, and further directs administration to begin the process of filing for the vacancy.
Excellent.
All in favor?
All in favor? Wilkie wanted to comment, I think. Yes, Wilkie?
I'm just doing a lot of what other people have said. I actually messaged Maureen today just to say thank you and to sad to see where you go, and one of her comments to me was, and hopefully it's not breaching her privacy, but she just said, you know, she's kind of stuck at home with all of this COVID stuff going on, and she felt it was time to move on. And in particular, her strong hope was to see more of the young families and younger members of the community that have started to take hold here. And this is no offense to you, but she really wanted to see some of those that representation taking hold on MPC. So, but here's hoping that we can get some folks engaged, and if they're even a quarter as engaged and as passionate about this town as Ms. Nelson was, we'll do it.
Here, here. So there you go. We'll take her recommendation and then find a young one.
I'm pretty sure that's against the employment code.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Don and Gary are just gonna flip out over that.
All right, no, that's great. You know what's really nice is that everyone on this council has had an experience with Maureen through MPC, and we all agree on the same thing, that she's going to be greatly missed. And so that's just really speaks to her character and the quality of volunteer that she was and still is. And so we wish her the best and get through this COVID, and maybe she'll be back at it again in another form, so we'll see. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we shall adjourn our meeting at 9:22.